Hare Krishna. వినిపిస్తుందా ఇప్పుడు ఆడియో క్లియర్ ఉందా?
Yes, Prabhu.
కొంచెం లో ఉంది కానీ పర్లేదు.
వన్ సెకండ్, కంప్యూటర్లో కనెక్ట్ అయిపోయింది.
బాగానే ఉంది ప్రభు.
I'll do it. Thank you so much for waiting and patience. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanadmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunamritamyana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavani Pashatu Deshatarane. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavranda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayati Kripatamaham Vande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Vishwan. Om Apavitra Pavitro Va Sarva Vasantu Smare Pundali Paksham Sadhyal Garbhasuchi. Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu. So we are here 2.6.26. But before that, let me share. Second canto, sixth chapter, second canto entitled as Cosmic Manifestation. Second canto, Cosmic Manifestation. Sixth chapter, Purusha Sukta, confirmed. 1 to 17 verses talks about Brahma's concepts. We have done reading. Question 6 to that. Yaksha, the Lord as the material cause and the efficient cause of the universe. 13 to 22, Ekapada Vibhuti versus Tripada Vibhuti. And now we are in this section. 23 to 30, answer to question 6. Brahma's testimony that the Lord is the material cause. So subsections 1 to 17, Lord's subtle sense organ, Tanmatra plus element, Lord's gross sense organ, sense Devata plus subtle sense organ of Virat Rupa and Jiva. 18 to 20 talks about spiritual world versus material world. 21 to 22, the Lord is the shelter of the paths of knowledge and enjoyment. He is aloof from material world. So 23 to 30, answer to question 6. Brahma collects ingredients for the sacrifice from the Lord's limbs. So let me share the 26 verse. Start, Mother. You are able to see now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Start.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah. Other necessities include invoking the different names of the demigods by specific hymns and vows of recompense in accordance with the particular scripture for specific purposes and by specific processes. Purport. The whole process of offering sacrifices under the category of fruitive action, and such activities are extremely scientific. They mainly depend on the process of vibrating sounds with a particular accent. It is a great science and due to being out of proper use for more than 4,000 years for want of qualified brahmanas. Such performances of sacrifice are no longer effective, nor are they recommended in this fallen age. Any such sacrifice undertaken in this age as a matter of show may simply be a cheating process by the clever priestly order, but such a show of sacrifices cannot be effective at any stage. Fruitive action is being carried on by the help of material science and to a little extent by gross material help, but the materialists await a still more subtle advancement in the process of vibrating sounds on which the Vedic hymns are established. Gross material science cannot divert the real purpose of human life. It can only increase the artificial needs of life without any solution to the problems of life. Therefore, the way of materialistic life leads to the wrong type of human civilization. Since the ultimate aim of life is spiritual realization, the direct way of invoking the holy name of the Lord, as mentioned above, is precisely recommended by Lord Chaitanya, and people of the modern age can easily take advantage of this simple process, which is tenable for the condition of the complicated social structure. Hare Krishna.
Samyukta Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Thus, I had to arrange all these necessary ingredients and paraphernalia of sacrifice from the personal bodily parts of the personality of Godhead. By invocation of the demigods' names, the ultimate goal, Vishnu, was gradually attained, and thus compensation and ultimate offering were complete. Purport. In this verse, special stress is given to the person of the Supreme Lord and not to his impersonal Brahma Jyoti, as being the source of all supplies. Narayana, the Supreme Lord, is the goal of sacrificial results, and therefore the Vedic hymns are ultimately meant for attaining this goal. Human life is thus made successful by pleasing Narayana and getting entrance into the direct association of Narayana in the spiritual kingdom of Vaikuntha. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Vani Mataji, can take this one.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mandalpana Mataji.
Yeah, translation. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. Purport. People in general are always anxious to have peace of mind or peace in the world, but they do not know how to achieve such a standard of peace in the world. Such peace in the world is obtainable by performances of sacrifice and by practice of austerity. In the Bhagavad Gita 5.29, the following prescription is recommended. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhrdam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim rachati. The Karma Yogis know that the Supreme Lord is the factual enjoyer and maintainer of all sacrifices and of the austerities. All of all sacrifice and of the austere life. They also know that the Lord is the ultimate proprietor of all the planets and is the factual friend of all living entities. Such knowledge gradually converts the Karma Yogis into pure devotees of the Lord, though the association of unalloyed devotees, and thus they are able to be liberated from the material bondage. Should I continue, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Continue.
Okay. Brahma, the original living being within the material world, taught us the way of sacrifice. The word sacrifice suggests dedication of one's own interest for satisfaction of the second person. That is the way of all activities. Every man is engaged in sacrificing his interest for others, either in the form of family, society, community, country, or the entire human society. But perfection of such sacrifices is attained when they are performed for the sake of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Person, the Lord. Because the Lord is the proprietor of everything, because the Lord is the friend of all living creatures, and because he is the maintainer of the performer of sacrifice, as well as the supplier of the ingredients of sacrifices, it is he only, no one else, who should be satisfied by all sacrifices. The world is engaged in sacrificing energy for advancement of social upliftment, economic development, and plans for total improvement of the human condition. But no one is interested in sacrificing for the sake of the Lord, as it is advised in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, there is no peace in the world. If men at all want peace in the world, they must practice sacrifice in the interest of the Supreme Proprietor and friend of all. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. One second. Raju Prabhu, please read.
Yeah, I'm in hearing mode.
Sure. No problem. Gaurav Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation. My dear son, thereafter your 9 brothers, who are the masters of living creatures, performed the sacrifice with the proper rituals to satisfy both the manifested and non-manifested personalities. Purport. The manifested personalities are the demigods, like the ruler of the heavenly kingdom, Indra and his associates, and the non-manifested personality is the Lord himself. The manifested personalities are mundane controllers of the material affairs, wherein the non-manifested personality of Godhead is transcendental, beyond the range of the material atmosphere. In this age of Kali, the manifested demigods are also not to be seen, for space travels has completely stopped. So both the powerful demigods and the supreme personality of Godheads are non-manifested to the covered eyes of the modern man. Modern men went to see everything with their eyes, although they are not sufficient qualified. They are not sufficiently qualified. Consequently, they disbelieve in the existence of the demigod or the supreme God. They should see through the pages of authentic scriptures and should not simply believe their unqualified eyes. Even in these days, God can also be seen by qualified eyes, tinged with the ointment of love of God. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you so much. Lalit Mohan Prabhu, Akinjan Prabhu, thank you for joining. You want to read, Prabhu?
Yes.
Yeah,
What
2630, second canto, 6th chapter, 30th verse. Please read.
Thereafter, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter, the Manus, the fathers of mankind, the great sages, the forefathers, the learned scholars, the Daityas, and the mankind perform sacrifices meant to place the Supreme Lord. Purport: the Daityas are devotees of demigods because they want to derive the greatest possible material facilities from them. The devotees of the Lord are Ekanishtha, are absolutely attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, they have practically no time to seek the benefits of the material facilities. Because of their realization of their spiritual identity, they are more concerned with spiritual emancipation than with material comforts.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Lalit Mohan Prabhu, 31.
Yes, Prabhuji. All the material manifestations of these universes are therefore situated in his powerful material energies, which he accepts self-sufficiently, although he is eternally without affinity for the material modes. Purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti from Srila Prabhupada. The question put by Narada before Brahma concerning the sustenance of the material creation is thus answered. Material actions and reactions, as the material scientist can superficially observe, are not basically ultimate truth in the regard of creation. In regard to creation, maintenance and destruction, the material energy is a potency of the Lord which is displayed in time, accepting the three qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance in the forms of Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. The material energy thus works under the supreme spell of his lordship, although he is always transcendental to all such material activities. A rich man constructs a big house by spending his energy in the shape of resources, and similarly, he destroys a big house by his resources. But the maintenance is always under his personal care. The Lord is the richest of the rich because he is always fully complete in 6 opulences. Therefore, he is not required to do anything personally, but everything in the material world is carried out by his wishes and direction. Therefore, the entire material manifestation is situated in Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is due to lack of knowledge only. And this fact is clearly explained by Brahmaji, who is supposed to be the creator of the universal affairs. Brahmaji is the highest authority in Vedic wisdom, and his assertion in this connection is therefore the supreme information. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Let me read 32nd one. Translation and purport by Abhayachan Narayana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. By his will, I create. Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself, in his eternal form, as the personality of God, maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these three energies. So this is a Brahma's prayer, no? So nice. Srujami tan yuktoham haro harati tadvashaha Vishwam Purusha Rupena Paripati Trishakti Drig. Purport. The conception of one without a second is clearly confirmed here. The one is Lord Vasudeva, and only by his different energies and expansions are different manifestations, both in the material and in the spiritual worlds maintained. In the material world also, Lord Vasudeva is everything, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudhulavaris. Everything is Vasudeva only. In the Vedic hymns, also the same Vasudeva is held to be supreme. It is said in the Vedas, Vasudevat Paro Brahman Nachanyortosti Tattvataha. In fact, there is no greater truth than Vasudeva. And Lord Krishna affirms the same truth in the Bhagavad Gita 7.7. Matta Parataram Nanya. There is nothing above me, Lord Krishna. So, the conception of oneness, as overly stressed by the impulsive, is also accepted by the personalist devotee of the Lord. The difference is that the personalist denies personality in the ultimate issue, whereas the devotee gives more importance to the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam explains this truth in the verse under discussion. Lord Vasudeva is one without a second. But because he is all powerful, he can expand himself as well as display his omnipotencies. The Lord is described here as omnipotent by three energies, Trishakti Drik. So, primarily, his three energies are internal, marginal, and external. This external energy is also displayed in the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Similarly, the internal potency is also displayed in three spiritual modes, Samvit, Sandhini, Samvit, Sandhini, and Hladini. The marginal potency or the living entities is also spiritual. Prakritim Vidhi Me Param, Jiva Bhuta Mahabhava Edam Dharyati. There is one verse. Prakritim Vidhi Me Param. Apareyam Istat Panyam. Prakritim Vidhi Me Param. Jiva Bhuta Mahabhava. That's the verse. But the living entities are never equal to the Lord. The Lord is Nirasta Samya Atishaya. In other words, no one is greater than or equal to the Supreme Lord. Nirasta Samya Atishaya. Okay. So the living entities, including even such great personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, are all subordinate to the Lord. In the material world also, in his eternal form of Vishnu, he maintains and controls all the affairs of the demigods, including Brahma and Shiva. Srishti Sthiti Laya, very nicely described by Srila Prabhupada, nicely described. And Krishna is the Vasudeva. Krishna is taking care of everything actually. On a duplicate, continue. Second time, again reading. Yeah, again, Deepa Mata, please continue.
Yes, Prabhuji. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear son, whatever you inquired from me, I have thus explained unto you. And you must know for certain that whatever there is, either as cause or as effect, both in the material and spiritual worlds, is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The complete cosmic manifestation, both in the material and in the spiritual manifestations of the energies of the Lord, is working and moving first as the cause and then as effect. But original cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Effects of the original cause become the cause of other effects, and thus everything, either permanent or temporary, is working as cause and effect. And because the Lord is the primeval cause of all persons and all energies, he is called the cause of all causes. As confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, as well as in the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Samhita affirms, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. And in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, it is said, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matta Sarvam Pravartate Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samandita. So the original primeval cause is Vigraha, the personal, and the impersonal spiritual effulgence, Brahmajyoti, is also an effect of the Supreme Brahman. Brahmano hi pratisthaham, Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice. Thank you, Mata.
Oh, the shloka is important, huh? Hari bol.
Prabhuji? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very important shloka. So
Yeah,
can
we'll
someone recite if you can?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'll recite.
Yeah.
You mother, mirror recite.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Iti,
No,
iti,
34, Prabhu. I'm sorry. Not 33.
3-4, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Samyukta Mataji చేస్తారా?
Yes, Prabhuji. Na
Sloka.
Bharati mein, Prabhuji, tune Prabhuji.
Na Bharati mein gamrushopa. Go ahead, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Na Bharati mein mrusho. Yes, Prabhuji. न भारती मेऽङ्ग पुरुष मृषोपलक्ष्यते न वै क्वचिन्मे मनसो मृषागति न मे हृषिकानि पठन्त्यसत्पते यन्मे हृदौ कान्त्यवत्तात धृतो हरि. Sorry, Prabhuji. Last.
Good,
చేస్తారా?
Mataji.
Right, yeah,
ఏమంటారా?
right. Mid Jain Prabhu.
Yeah. न भारती में गमृषोपलक्ष्यते. Please, everyone repeat.
నా భారతి మే
उपलक्ष्यते.
न वै क्वचिन्मे मनसो मृषा गतिः.
न वै कचिन्मे मनसो मृषागति
न मे हृषिकानि पतन्त्यसत्पथे.
न मे हृषिकानि पतन्त्यसत्पथे
यन्मे हृदौ कण्ठ्यवताधृतो हरिः.
यन्मे हृदौ कण्ठ्यवताधृतो हरिः.
హరి.
Thank you, Roj. Please read. Now go ahead with the read.
Read Mother.
Translation. O Narada, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. Purport. Lord Brahma is the original speaker of Vedic wisdom to Narada, and Narada is the distributor of transcendental knowledge all over the world through his various disciples like Vyasadeva and others. The followers of Vedic wisdom accept the statements of Brahmaji as gospel truth, and transcendental knowledge is thus being distributed all over the world by the process of disciplic succession from time immemorial, since the beginning of the creation. Lord Brahma is the perfect liberated living being within the material world, and any sincere student of transcendental knowledge must accept the words and statements of Brahmaji as infallible. The Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down directly from the Supreme Lord unto the heart of Brahma, and since he is the most perfect living being, Brahmaji is always correct to the letter. And this is because Lord Brahma is a great devotee of the Lord who has earnestly accepted the lotus feet of the Lord as the supreme truth. In the Brahma Samhita, which is compiled by Brahmaji, he repeats the aphorism, Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I am a worshipper of the original personality of Godhead, Govinda, the primeval Lord. So whatever he says, whatever he thinks, and whatever he does normally in his mood are to be accepted as truth because of his direct and very intimate connection with Govinda, the primeval Lord. Sri Govinda, who pleasingly accepts the loving transcendental service of his devotees, gives all protection to the words and actions of his devotees. The Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita 9.31, Kaunteya Prati Janihi. O son of Kunti, please declare it. The Lord asked Arjuna to declare, and why? Because sometimes the declaration of Govinda himself may seem contradictory to mundane creatures, but the mundaner will never find any contradiction in the words of the Lord's devotees. The devotees are especially protected by the Lord so that they remain infallible. Therefore, the process of devotional service always begins in the service of the devotee who appears in disciplic succession. The devotee are always liberated, but that does not mean that they are impersonal. The Lord is a person eternally, and the devotee of the Lord is also a person eternally. Because the devotee has his sense organs even at the liberated stage, he is therefore a person always. And because the devotee's service is accepted by the Lord in full reciprocation, the Lord is also a person in his complete spiritual embodiment. The devotee's senses, being engaged in the service of the Lord, never go astray under the attraction of false material enjoyment. The plans of the devotee never go in vain, and all this is due to the faithful attachment of the devotee of the service of the Lord. This is the standard of perfection and liberation. Anyone beginning from Brahmaji down to the human being is at once put on the path of liberation simply by his attachment in great earnestness for the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord. The Lord affirms in this Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Shall I read Prabhuji or?
We'll give it to somebody. Sloka. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Vani
Krishna.
Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. Vani Mataji. Okay. Yeah. Surendra Prabhu, మీరు జాయిన్ అయ్యారు చదవండి. Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna. Surendra Prabhu. Vani Mataji, you are able to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, highlighted one.
Highlighted one, Prabhuji. Mama, again, అక్కడి నుంచి స్టార్ట్ చేయాలా?
భగవద్గీత
Okay.
14:26 hours. మాం చేయో విచారేణ
Okay, Prabhuji. మాం చయో వ్యభిచారేణ భక్తి యోగేన సేవతే సగుణాన్ సమతిత్యయ సగుణాన్ సమతిత్యాత బ్రహ్మ భూయాయ కల్పతే. Anyone, therefore, who is earnestly serious in heart and soul about being in intimate touch with the personality of Godhead in the relationship of transcendental loving service will always be infallible in words and action. The reason is that the Supreme Lord is absolute truth, and anything earnestly devoted with the absolute truth attains the same transcendental quality. On the other hand, any amount of mental speculation on the strength of material science and knowledge without any bona fide touch with the absolute truth is sure to be a mundane untruth and failure, simply due to not being in touch with the absolute truth. Such godless, unfaithful words and actions, however materially enriched, are never to be trusted. That is the purport of this important verse. A grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness.
Yeah. This is one of the frequent verses Srila Prabhupada quotes in lectures and purports, 14.26. Mamchayo vabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati tedan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Pure
This is there in
devotional.
Bhakti Shastri also, Prabhuji, this verse.
Yes, yes. Very good. Thank you, Mataji. Surendra Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Pranam.
Joining. Translation.
Translation. Although I am known as the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities and am an expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand him, the Lord, the very source of my birth. Purport. Brahma, the greatest of all living creatures within the universe, is admitting his failure to know the Supreme Lord, despite his vast learning in the Vedic wisdom, despite his austerity, penance, mystic powers, and self-realization, and despite being worshipped by the great Prajapatis, the forefathers of the living entities. So these qualifications are not sufficient to know the Supreme Lord. Brahmaji could understand the Lord to a little extent only when he was trying to serve him. by the eagerness of his heart. Hridaut Kanta Yavata, which is the devotional service mode. Therefore, the Lord can be known only by the sincere mode of eagerness for service and not by any amount of material qualification as a scientist or speculative philosopher or by attainment of mystic powers. This fact is clearly corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.54 to 55. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Continue this slokas and talk listening.
Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma न सोचति न कांक्षति समसर्वेषु भूतेषु मद्भक्तिं लभते परम भक्त्या माम् अभिज्ञाति यावान् यास्मि तत्त्वतः यतो मां तत्त्वतो ज्ञात्वा विशाते तत् अनन्तरम्.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mana Gaurav Prabhu.
Only self-realization, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Only self-realization by attainment of the above high qualifications of Vedic wisdom, austerity, etc. can help one on the path of devotional service. But failing in the devotional service, one remains still imperfect because even in that position of self-realization, one cannot factually know the Supreme Lord. By self-realization, one is qualified to become a devotee, and the devotee by service mode, Bhakti, only can gradually know the personality of Godhead. One should not, however, misunderstand the import of Visate enters into as referring to merging into existence of the Supreme. Even in the material existence, one is merged in the existence of the Lord. No materialist can disentangle self from matter, for the self is merged in the external energy of the Lord. As no layman can separate butter from milk, no one can extricate the merged self from matter by acquiring some material qualification. By Visate, by devotional, the Visate by devotional Bhaktiya means to be able to participate in the associations of the Lord in person. Bhakti or devotional service or to the Lord means to become free from material entanglement and then to enter the kingdom of God. Becoming one like him, losing one's individuality is not the aim of Bhakti Yoga or of the devotees of the Lord. There are 5 types of liberation, one of which is called Sayujya Mukti, or being merged into the existence or the body of the Lord. The other forms of the liberations maintain the individuality to the particle soul and involve being always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The word Visate used in the verse of the Bhagavad Gita is thus meant for the devotees who are not at all anxious for any kind of liberation. The devotees are satisfied simply in being engaged in the service of the Lord, regardless of the situation. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Raja Prabhu, are you able to read? I think you're outside.
Outside.
Still outside, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, are you able to read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Some sound వస్తుంది ప్రభుజీ బయట ఎక్కడ ఉన్నారు మీరు వచ్చా
అదే బయట ఉన్నా ప్రభుజీ.
ఓకే 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 థ్యాంక్ యూ ఇట్స్ ఓకే హియరింగ్ లో నో ప్రాబ్లం అకించాం ప్రభు ప్లీజ్ రీడ్.
Yes, Prabhu.
Paragraphs.
Lord Brahma is the first living being who directly learned the Vedic wisdom from the Lord. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikave. Therefore, who can be more learned Vedantist than Lord Brahma? He admits that in spite of his perfect knowledge in the Vedas, he was unable to know the glories of the Lord. Since no one can be more than the Lord Brahma, how can so-called Vedantists be perfectly cognizant of absolute truth? The so-called Vedantis therefore cannot enter into existence of the Lord without being trained in the matter of Bhakti Vedanta or Vedanta plus Bhakti. Vedanta means self-realization and Bhakti means realization of personality of Godhead. So, to some extent, no one can know the personality of Godhead in full, but at least to the certain extent, one can know the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead by self-surrender and devotional attitude, and by nothing else. In the Brahma Samhita also, it is said, Vedeshu Durlabham or simply by study of Vedanta, one can hardly find out the existence of personality of Godhead. But the Lord is Adhurlabham Atma Bhakta, very easily available to his devotees. Srila Vyasadeva therefore was not satisfied simply with compiling the Vedanta Sutras, but over and above this, the advice of the spiritual master Narada, he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in order to understand the real import of Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the absolute medium by which to understand the absolute truth. Hare
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for. So above and beyond, these words are we use, in the language, English, above and beyond. After written all these, 108 Upanishads, 18 Puranas, 4 Vedas, above and beyond, he was thinking, no, I'm not satisfied. What happened? So you all know story. That's the thing. Okay. Lalit Mohan Prabhu, you could generally with this, we'll conclude. Takes time.
Yes, Prabhu. Translation. Therefore, it is best for me to surrender unto his feet, which alone can deliver one from the miseries of repeated birth and death. Such surrender is all auspicious and allows one to perceive all happiness. Even the sky cannot estimate the limits of its own expansion. So what can others do when the Lord himself is unable to estimate his own limits? Purport. By His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Brahma, the greatest of all learned living beings, the greatest sacrificer, the greatest observer of the austere life, and the greatest self-realized mystic, advises us as the supreme spiritual master of all living beings that one should simply surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord in order to achieve all success, even up to the limit of being liberated from miseries of material life and being endowed with all auspicious spiritual existence. Lord Brahma is known as the Pitamaha, or the father's father. A young man consults his experienced father about discharging his duties. So, the father is naturally a good advisor. But Lord Brahma is father of all fathers. He is the father of Manu, who is the father of mankind all over the universal planets. Therefore, the men of this therefore the men of this insignificant planet should kindly accept the instructions of Brahmaji and would do well to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord rather than try to estimate the length and breadth of the Lord's potencies. His potencies are immeasurable. As confirmed in the Vedas, Parashya Shakter Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriyacha Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. He is the greatest of all, and all others, even the greatest of all living beings, namely Brahmaji, admits that the best thing for us is to surrender unto him. Therefore, only those persons with a very poor fund of knowledge claim that they themselves are lords of all that they survey. And what can they survey? They cannot survey even the length and breadth of a small sky in one small universe. The so-called material scientists say that he would need to live 40,000 years to reach the highest planet of the universe, being carried by Sputnik. This is also utopian because no one can be expected to live 40,000 years. Besides, when the space pilot returned from his travel, none of his friends would be present to receive him back as a greatest astronaut, as has become fashionable for modern bewildered scientific men. One scientific man who had no belief in God was very much enthusiastic in making plans for his material existence and therefore opened a hospital to save the living. But after opening the hospital, he himself died within 6 months. So one should not spoil his human life, which is obtained after many, many changes of bodies in 84 lakh species of life, simply for the concocted material happiness of life through increasing artificial needs in the name of advancement of economic development and scientific knowledge. Rather, one should simply surrender unto the feet of the Lord to make solution to all miseries of life. That is the instruction of Lord Krishna directly in Bhagavad Gita, and that is the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam by Brahmaji, the supreme father of all living beings. Hey Ram,
Thank you, Guruji.
too big problem, too deep.
Yeah, too deep. Yes, Prabhu. సురేందర్ ప్రభు ఈ ఒక పారాగ్రాఫ్ చదవండి, మిగతా రెండు నేను చేస్తాను.
Hare Krishna.
హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభు.
Anyone denying this surrendering process as recommended both in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and for that matter in all authorized scriptures, will be forced to surrender onto the laws of material nature. The living entity, by his constitutional position, is not independent. He must surrender either unto the Lord or unto material nature. Material nature is also not independent of the Lord. Since the Lord himself has claimed material nature as Mama Maya or my energy in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, and me as a Bhinna Prakritir Ashtada, or my separated energy in 8 divisions, BG 7.4. Therefore, material nature is also controlled by the Lord, as he has claimed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Mahadhyakshena Prakritir Suyate Sacharacharam. Under my direction only is material nature working, and thus are all things moving, and the living entities. Being superior energy to matter, have choice and discrimination either to surrender onto the Lord or to surrender onto material nature. By surrendering unto the Lord, one is happy and liberated, but by surrendering unto material nature, the living entity suffers. So the end of all the suffering means surrendering unto the Lord, because the surrendering process itself is bhava chittam, liberation from of all material miseries. Swasti ayanam, perception of all happiness, and sumangalam, the source of everything auspicious. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Therefore, liberty, happiness, and all good fortune can be attained only by surrendering unto the Lord, because he is full liberty, full happiness, and full auspiciousness. Such liberation and happiness are also unlimited, and they have been compared to the sky. Although such liberation and happiness are infinitely greater than sky. In our present position, we can simply understand the magnitude of greatness when it is compared to the sky. We fail to measure the sky, but the happiness and liberty obtained in association with the Lord are far greater than the sky. That spiritual happiness is so great that it cannot be measured, even by the Lord himself, not to speak of others. It is said in the scriptures, Brahma Saukyam tu Anantam. It is said in the scriptures, Brahma Saukyam tu Anantam. Spiritual happiness is unlimited. Here it is said that even the Lord cannot measure such happiness. This does not mean that the Lord cannot measure it and is therefore imperfect in that sense. No. The actual position is that the Lord can measure it, but the happiness in the Lord is also identical with the Lord on account of absolute knowledge. So the happiness derived from the Lord may be measured by the Lord, but the happiness increases again, and the Lord measures it again. Then again, the happiness increases more and more, and the Lord measures it more and more. And as such, there is eternally a competition between increment and measurement. Beautifully written. So much so that the competition is never stopped, but goes on unlimitedly ad infinitum. Unlimitedly ad infinitum. Okay. Spiritual happiness is Anandambadi Vardhanam, or the ocean of happiness which increases. The material ocean is stagnant, but the spiritual ocean is dynamic. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 4th chapter, Kaviraj Goswami has very nicely described this dynamic increment of the ocean of spiritual happiness in the transcendental person of Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Jai. Beautiful purpose actually, no? The last two purports, last two verses. Super. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll stop here, devotees. Continue our Sloka recitation. Today is the last day of the Sloka recitation of the Bhakti Vaibhava verses. Thank you very much for reading today. Randhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So let me share Bhagavatam verses. Still loading, huh? Are you are not able to see, right? You are not able to see, right?
Yes, Prabhuji, కనిపించట్లేదు Prabhuji.
Yeah, no, Prabhuji.
Loading. It says loading, so that means it's still loading. Frozen in that. Okay. Mother,
Prabhuji,
you start then.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you can start, or Deepa Mother, you can start by looking.
Prabhuji, నన్ను హోస్ట్ చేసేయండి, నేను షేర్ చేసాను. It could be a problem with your internet.
Host చేయడానికి లేదు మదర్ PDF లో ఓపెన్ చేసి you just
అదే మీరు నన్ను హోస్ట్ చేస్తే నేను PDF ని షేర్ చేస్తాను అంటున్నా.
అంటే షేర్ చేయడానికి లేకుండా మొత్తం ఫ్రోజన్ అయిపోయింది, అందుకని మీరు జస్ట్ నో నీడ్ టు షేర్ స్క్రీన్. ఇది కొంచెం టైం స్టార్ట్ రిసైటేషన్.
ఓకే Prabhuji. Vani Mataji, you wanted to start, you can start Mataji.
Yeah. एतावान् सांख्ययोगाभ्यां स्वधर्मा परिनिष्ठया जन्मलाभा परापुंसाम् अन्ते नारायण स्मृतिः. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty is to remember the personality of Godhead and the end of life. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udarati Tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. Chatushloki Bhagavatam start. Aham eva sameva agre nanyat yat sat asat param paschataham yat etascha Yo vashishyeta so asmyaham. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. Ritetam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tat vidyaya datmano maya yata bhasho yata tamaha. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusionary energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Yatha mahanti bhutani bhuteshu chvavacheshvano pravishtani apravishtani tatha teshu nateshvaham. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. Etavad eva jigyasam tattva jigyatsunatmana anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatset sarvatra sarvada. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. Chatishloki Bhagavatam ends. Shri Sukha Uvacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanam Utaya Manavante Raishanu Katha Niruddho Muktir Ashraya. Shri Sukadev Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of Manus, the science of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the summum bonum. Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you. Deepa Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. 2.1.6 Srimad Bhagavatam. Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smritihi. Translation. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Translation. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Chatushloki Bhagavatam starts. Dhritirtham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta.
Sorry. 2 times litigation. Sorry. Ahamevasa.
Ahamevasame nanyad yat sad asat param paschadaham yadetacha yovashishyeta sosmyaham. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. Ritirtham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadatmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamaha. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Yatha mahanti bhutani bhuteshu chavacheshvano pravishtanya pravishtani tatha teshu na teshvaham. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. Etavadev jigyasyam tattva jigyasunatmanah anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvada. Translation. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. Chatushloki Bhagavatam ends. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Thanam Poshanam Utayah Manvantare Shanukatha Nirodho Muktirashrayah. Translation. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of Manus, the science of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the summum bonum. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. I will do. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.6. Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinistaya Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smritihi. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. 2.3.10 Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. Chatusloki Bhagavatam starts 2.9.33. Ahameva sameva agre nanyad yat sad asat param paschad aham yadetacha yovashishyeta sosmyaham. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. 2.9.34 Rutertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadatmano mayam yata bhasho yata tamaha. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. 2.9.35 Yata mahanti bhutani bhutesu chavacheshvano pravishyana pravishyani tatateshu nateshvaham. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created and at the same time I am outside of everything. 2.9.36 एतावादेव जिज्ञास्यं तत्त्वजिज्ञासुनात्मनः अन्वयाव्यतिरेकाभ्यां यत्स्यत् सर्वत्र सर्वदा. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. Chatusloki Bhagavatam ended. 2.10.1 Sri Sukha Uvacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanamutaya Manvantaresha Nukatha Nirodho Muktirashraya. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of Manus, the signs of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Sammam Bonam. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So over to devotees. You all practice, you all receive all the slokas. Everybody sir first. Who else there?
Prabhuji, can I do? I just came from service, so joined late.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay, you do. Next, for after Saban Prabhu, Samyukta Mata you want to do? Surendra Prabhu you want to do?
Prabhuji.
Haribol?
I'll do Prabhuji.
Yeah, okay. Surendra Prabhu, what about you?
Yeah, I will do close.
Yeah, in a sequence, okay. Then Akin Prabhu. Okay, very good.
Hare Krishna.
Chant.
एतावान् साङ्ख्ययोगाभ्यां स्वधर्मा परिनिष्ठया जन्मलाभ परापुंसाम् अन्ते नारायण स्मृतिः अकाम सर्वकामो वा मोक्षकामा उदारधी तीव्रेण भक्तियोगेन यजेत पुरुषं परम् अहमेवासमेवाग्रे नान्यत् सदसत्परम् पश्चादहं यदेतच्च यो वशिष्येत सोऽस्म्यहम् ऋतेर्थं यत् प्रतीयेत न प्रतीयेत चात्मनि तद्विद्यादात्मनो मायां यथा भाषो यथा तमः यथा महान्ति भूतानि भूतेषु चावचेष्वनु प्रविष्टान्यप्रविष्टानि तथा तेषु न तेष्वहम्.
What are these slokas, Prabhu? Sapan Prabhu?
In Prabhuji?
What are these slokas? Last three.
I think start of
Chatusloki.
start of Chatusloki.
Chatusloki. Bhagavata. Recite.
Etavadev jignasyam tattva jignasunatmanah anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvada. Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Sri Sukha Vacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanamutaya Manvantaresha Nukata Nirodho Muktirashraya. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Surendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. एतावान् साङ्ख्ययोगाभ्यां स्वधर्मा परिनिष्ठया जन्मलाभा परा पुंसाम् अन्ते नारायण स्मृतिः. अकामः सर्वकामो वा मोक्षकामा उदारति तीव्रेण भक्तियोगेन यजेत पुरुषं परम्. चतुश्लोकी भागवतम स्टार्ट. अहम् एवासमेवाग्रे नान्याद्यत् अतत्परम् पश्चादहं यतच्चेतत् एतत् यो वसिष्येत सोम्यहम्. इत्यर्थं यत् प्रतीयेत न प्रतीयेत चात्मनि तद्विद्यादात्मनो मायं यथा भासो यथा तमः. यथा महन्ति भूतानि भूतेषु च चेष्वनु अप्रविष्टानि तथा तेषु न तेष्वहम्. एतावादेव जिज्ञासं तत्त्वजिज्ञासुनात्मनः अन्वयाव्यतिरेकाभ्यां यस्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा. श्लोकी भागवतम्. श्रीशुको उवाच अत्र सर्गो विसर्गश्च स्थानं पोषणमुदय अन्वन्तरेशानुगतः निरोधो मुक्तिराश्रयः.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Samyukta.
Yes, Prabhu. एतावान् साङ्ख्ययोगाभ्यां स्वधर्मा परिनिष्ठया जन्मलाभः परः पुंसाम् अन्ते नारायण स्मृतिः. अकामा सर्वकामो वा मोक्षकामा उदारदिः तीव्रेण भक्तियोगेन यजेत पुरुषं परम्. चतुश्लोकी भागवतम स्टार्ट. अहमेवासमेवाग्रे नान्यद्यत्सदसत्परम् पश्चादहं यदेतच्च यो वशिष्येत सोऽस्म्यहम्. ऋतेर्थं यत् प्रतीयेत न प्रतीयेत चात्मनि तद्विद्यादात्मनो मायां यथा भासो यथा तमः. यथा महान्ति भूतानि भूतेषु चावचेष्वनु प्रविष्टान्यप्रविष्टानि तथा तेषु न तेष्वहम् एतावादेव जिज्ञास्यं तत्त्वजिज्ञासुनात्मनः अन्वयाव्यतिरेकाभ्यां यत्स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा चतुश्लोकी भागवतम एंड श्री शुक उवाच अत्र सर्गो विसर्गश्च स्थानं पोषणमूतयः मन्वन्तरेषानुकथा निरुधो मुक्तिराश्रयः. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Akinchan Prabhu. Akinchan Prabhu. చేస్తారా ఒక్కసారి లలితమం ప్రభు మీరు శ్లోక విత్ ట్రాన్స్లేషన్ చేసి వైండ్ అప్ చేద్దాం ప్రభు చేయండి.
ఓకే ప్రభుజీ.
యా అకించం ప్రభు చేస్తారా?
చేయండి చేయండి ప్రభు. దట్స్ ఓకే ఫైన్.
ఇప్పుడు ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు డూ ఇట్ శ్లోకాస్ అండ్ ప్రభుజీ విల్ ఎండ్ విత్ ఆల్ ద శ్లోక రిసైటేషన్ విత్ ట్రాన్స్లేషన్స్. మీరు చేయండి ఒకసారి చేయండి.
एतावान् साङ्ख्ययोगाभ्यां सर्वधर्मपरिनिष्ठया जन्मलाभा परापुंसा अन्ते नारायण स्मृति अकाम सर्वकामो वा मोक्षकामा उदारति तीव्रेण भक्ति योगेन यजयते पुरुषं परम. चतुर्श्लोकी भागवतम स्टार्ट. अहमेव सम्मेवाग्रे नान्याद्यत् सदसत्परं पश्चादहं यद्येताश्च यो वशिष्येतासोऽस्म्यहम्. ऋतेरितं यत् प्रतीयेता न प्रतीयेता च यत् न प्रतीयेता चात्मनि तद्विद्यादात्मनो मायां यतोऽभ्यासो यथा तमः यथा महान्ति भूतानि भूतेषु चाश्वस्येष्वं नो प्रतिष्ठानि अप्रविष्टानि तथा तेषु न तेष्वहम्. एतादेव जिज्ञासं तज्जिज्ञाससुनात्मना अन्वयाव्यतिरेकाभ्यां यत्स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा. चतुर्श्लोकी भागवतम एंड्स. श्रीशुक उवाच अत्र सर्गो विसर्गश्च स्थानं पोषणमूटया मन्वन्त्रेणानुकथा निरोधो मुक्तिराश्रया.
मन्वन्तरेषानुकथा
मुक्तिराश्रया.
సరే చేయండి మళ్ళీ లాస్ట్ మళ్ళీ మొత్తం చేయండి.
अत्र सर्गो विसर्गश्च स्थानं पोषणमूतया मन्वन्तरेण सानुकथा निरोधो मुक्तिराश्रया.
థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రభు. థ్యాంక్ యూ. మన్వంతరేషానుకథ. మన్వంతరేషాను. yes ప్రభుజీ.
Yes.
Thank you. Lalitma Prabhu, you
Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.6. एतावान् सांख्ययोगाभ्यां स्वधर्मा परिनिष्ठया जन्मलाभः परपुंसाम् अन्ते नारायण स्मृतिः. Translation. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the end of the life. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. Akama sarva kamo moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Translation: a person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. Chatushloki Bhagavatam starts 2.9.33. Ahameva samevagre nanyajat sadasat param paschadaham yadetacha yo vashishyeta sosmyaham. Translation: Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself. Nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the Personality of Godhead. (2.9.34) Ridhertham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadatmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamaha. Translation: O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. 2.9.35 Yatha mahanti bhutani bhuteshu chavacheshvanu pravisthanya pravisthani tatha teshu nateshvaham. Translation: O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. 2.9.36 Yetavadeva jignasyam tatvajignasunatmanaha anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatsya sarvatra sarvada. Translation: a person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. Thus ends the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Thank you. One more thing, one more space. 2.10.1 topic Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanam Utayaha Manvantareshanu Katha Nirodho Muktir Ashrayaha. Translation: Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impotence, the change of Manus, the signs of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samambhana. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. We'll wrap up, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Again, Danda pranams to all of you. Vancha kalpata rupescha Kripascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Ananda Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitaya Gaur Hari Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. See you all on Monday. A very, very happy Krishna conscious weekend. Always in Krishna consciousness. That is real happiness. Just now we read Bhagavatam. Anandambudi.
Anandambudi Preetivardhanam.
Anandambudi Vardhanam. Brahma Saukyam Anantaram. What does it mean?
అంటే లార్డ్ ఇచ్చే ఇది is unlimited.
బ్రహ్మ సౌఖ్యం త్వనంతం. భగవంతుడు ఇచ్చే భగవంతునితో కనెక్ట్ అయ్యేది ఏది కూడా అది రియల్ హ్యాపీనెస్ అండ్ ఇట్స్ ఎవర్ ఇంక్రీజింగ్. మెజర్మెంట్ రెండు ప్రభుపద వర్డ్స్ నైస్లీ రిటర్న్ రైట్ హియర్. Happiness increases more and more and the Lord measures it more and more. As such, eternally competition between increment and measurement. The words nicely, pointed out Sloka. Anandam Vivardhanam, Brahma Saukyam, Tvananantam, unlimited. Jai. Okay, so always in happiness. Found in Krishna related activities. Bhavatam reading, Bhagavad-gita reading, Chaitanya Charitamrita reading, association with devotees, ABCD, that's it, we all know. Thank you very much, okay? Hare Krishna. See you all on Monday.
హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ, ఆల్ ద బెస్ట్ ప్రభుజీ. మీ స్లాట్ ఎప్పుడు?
సండే. ఎప్పుడైనా
సండే
సండే అంటే మాకు సండే మార్నింగ్ ఇండియా టైం, సండే నైట్, సండే ఈవినింగ్.
యు ఆర్ లక్కీ టు గెట్ సమ్ ఎక్స్ట్రా టైం ఫర్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్.
సారీ
స్లాట్
అంటే ఒక్కసారి సరే ఇదన్నీ తర్వాత మాట్లాడదు. ఎనీవే థ్యాంక్ యూ. విష్ యూ ఆల్ ద వెరీ బెస్ట్. వారి మాతాజీ దీపావళి ఈ రోజు ఈవినింగ్ జాయిన్ అవ్వండి కదా. ఈ రోజు ఈవినింగ్
జాయిన్ అవుదాం ప్రభుజీ. ఇవాళ లాస్ట్ నాది, రేపు మధ్యాహ్నం స్లాట్. వాణి మాతాజీ కూడా సేమ్ స్లాటే.
వాళ్ళ ఇంటికి వెళ్ళి రాయండి, లేకపోతే మీరు ఇంటికి ఇన్వైట్ చేయండి మాతాజీ. కూర్చోండి.
మన ఇది వీడియో ఎవరు చూపిస్తారు మరి?
ఇంకో రూమ్ లో కూర్చోండి మాతాజీ. బ్రేక్ వెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఎక్స్చేంజ్ చేసుకోండి. ఉన్నదా వాణి మాతాజీ? హరిబోల్
ఉన్నారు.
బిజీ ఉంటుంది. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
శ్రీమద్ భాగవతంలో ఏం చీటింగ్ చెప్తారు?